Texas broke all previous real estate records and rose to the top among U.S. states for homebuyer migration during the past 1.5 years. It is one of the states with the highest population growth in the nation, but it is also one of the most climate change susceptible. That is a result of hurricanes being stronger. Homes in the region are low-lying and generally rest on limestone, and sea levels are increasing, while local officials are constructing a wall and aggressively seeking alternatives. However, you can always tell when a new stadium or piece of infrastructure is announced here that it will require a lot of room and be quite expensive. The nation's oil and gas capital is spending billions to safeguard one of its most essential regions against a hazard that is getting worse due to climate change. Texas is using all its resources to defend its coastline in the best way it can. Hello, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today's video discusses how the United States is building a seawall to protect the Texas coast by investing $1 billion. For updates about our newest videos, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon. Let's get started. It would be best if you simply were persuaded that the state has a size fetish. Houston, Dallas, and Austin are all sizable cities. However, one town in the area was more extensive than all. This is Galveston, a seaside resort that grew into Texas's most significant metropolis in the 19th century. One of America's major ports was located there. A lot of trade money was used to pass through this area. It became evident that a new shipping route between Galveston and adjacent Houston was required as the city and the local economy flourished. Stop sand and silt from entering the channel, this required extensive, intensive dredging and building 2 jetties and a dike. However, Galveston's location on a long, narrow island kept it vulnerable to natural disasters even after these defensive buildings were completed in the late 1890s. And that's precisely what occurred in the 1900s when the city was slammed by one of the most significant storms in U.S. history, killing thousands of people. Millions of people won't forget the catastrophe that occurred more than a century later, even if no one in this area will remember that particular event. With more than 100-mile-per-hour gusts, Hurricane Ike tore across southeast Texas, killing hundreds of people and leaving behind damage estimated to be worth $30 billion. Galveston is receiving the entire force. 34 counties have declared disaster regions due to the worst storm surge in over 100 years, which has stretched over 15 miles of inland space. After the initial shock subsided, the discussion centered on how future tragedies of this nature may be avoided. It would need to be significant and done in the Texas manner, given the extent of the disaster. It is a component of a larger plan to provide Texas's hundreds of miles of coastline with considerably stronger protection in the case of another calamity. However, it has a price tag of up to $31 billion US. Around half of that amount has been set aside for itself, which is considerably more than a short seawall. The Bolivar Peninsula and Galveston Island will be covered in artificial beaches, dunes, and a massive network of gates and obstacles. The project's most challenging component is the storm surge barrier system, which is made up of several enormous gates and will cover the almost 2-mile gap at the entrance to Galveston Bay. 3 artificial islands will have 2 200-meter navigation gates built across them, allowing routes for passing ships. There will also be a series of vertical lift gates installed between these new islands and the shorelines. These gates will often be left open, allowing the bay to function normally. However, they are all close together and create a massive barrier against the Gulf of Mexico. It resembles the enormous pop-up gates used to safeguard Venice, not too dissimilarly. And if you're from another European nation, those giant swinging gates could seem somewhat familiar to you. The Texas team that designed it was influenced by the Dutch and their approach to defending Rotterdam. The whole strategy to construct a new coastline spine for the area is lifted from the Dutch playbook and the gate system. Improvements to the current barrier in Galveston will include miles of artificial beaches and dunes, and ecosystems that have been harmed will be restored. Finally, a ring barrier will be constructed to defend the city itself. Flood barriers, highway and railroad gates, and a new drainage system with pump stations will be included. This will make it possible to transport water from within the barrier and back into the bay. It will take a while to deliver because a lot is involved. Only the primary gate system is anticipated to take around 18 years to finish. There has already been a lot of effort. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers worked in collaboration with the Texas General Land Office, which a man managed by the name of George Bush, for 6 years and conducted a multi-million-dollar thorough research to develop a strategy. The new Water Resources Development Act, which consists of several other initiatives and is currently making its way through the U.S. Congress, incorporates Tai Chi as just one component. Even though Congress has approved the act, several elements still need to be worked out before the president signs the bill. Additionally, the issue of project finance still needs to be resolved entirely. It is anticipated that the funding will be distributed similarly to past goods of this kind, with around 65% coming from federal funding and the remaining 35% coming from municipal budgets. Texas would need to fork out approximately $31 billion in U.S. funds, but it shouldn't be a big problem as this massive plan would safeguard more than just Galveston residents and their possessions. The Houston-Galveston region is home to hundreds of petrochemical facilities, including some of the biggest oil refineries in the U.S. This would increase security in an area of vital economic importance and political and financial support. With this skill, money may be raised. One of the largest and most important of the several large construction projects the U.S. is about to undertake is Lake Dike. Every plan put out to advance America's infrastructure is crucial. When you consider the harm caused without it, the necessity for a project like this is apparent. 2000 nights served as another evidence that if improperly unprepared, even the most prosperous economy in the world is still susceptible to the fury of nature. We hope we will be prepared for the upcoming major storm that will hit Texas. That's all for today. Please share your opinions on seawalls in the comment section. Could you envision the US spending $1 billion to save its assets? Don't forget to share the video with your family and friends. We'll be back shortly with another incredible video. I appreciate your attention.